Good evening, Beyond the Call of Duty friends and family and End of Watch family. It's Saturday, May 12th, Friday, the 12th. JC will be here shortly. He actually has been at an event all day with JC Jewelry and Design, one of our sponsors. He spent the day there from 10 a.m. to 5. It was an outstanding event. We had a lot of people show up. Super happy to have everybody there. So we want to make sure that we thank our sponsor, and we'll make sure to get their logo and their contact information up when we do our sponsor portion today. But again, we can't say thank you enough to them for today. Tomorrow, everybody please be aware that we will be at the 8th annual car show from 9 a.m. until 3, and I will get an address for everybody. If you look at our events page, you'll see the time and when we're going to be there. But it'll be at the Liberty Christian School in Richland, Washington. It's 2200 Williams Boulevard, and it's the 8th annual. Apologize for the background noise. The 8th annual Patriot Show and Shine. Please show up if you're in the area. We'd love to have you see our new rolling memorial honoring the 245 fallen from 2022. And we have a special guest tonight that we'll be getting to, Jodi Carnes, who is the survivor of fallen officer Stephen Carnes. And we will be having her on in a little while to share stories about Stephen. Unfortunately, this week we need to talk about several fallen that we had. It was a rough week for law enforcement. Hurts my heart. The first fallen that we're going to talk is out of Cameron PD. I apologize. We actually don't have a photograph of Sergeant Joshua Klaus. His end of watch was Thursday, May 23rd. He was from the Cameron Police Department, as you can see, in Texas. He was shot and killed by a subject as he and other officers executed a search warrant. The subject inside the home was wanted for shooting his wife during a domestic violence incident earlier in the night. The wounded woman was able to walk to neighbors and call police. Responding officers secured the subject's residence and obtained a search warrant to take him into custody. Officers with the Cameron Police Department and then several neighboring agencies attempted to execute the warrant. The man opened fire, fatally wounding Sergeant Klaus. The other officers returned fire and were able to stop the subject, and he was killed. Sergeant Klaus was a U.S. Army veteran, and he's survived by his wife and 2 children. So I believe Cameron PD lost a couple of officers as well last year. I would have to bring it up, but Texas has unfortunately historically been suffered the most losses of fallen officers over the years. So our hearts and prayers go out to his family at this time. So please say a silent prayer for him. Next is Kim Sikafus, I want to say. She was with the Alabama Port Authority Police in Alabama. Her end of watch was also Thursday, May 11th. She was a port police officer, and she actually drowned when her patrol car drove into the Mobile River at the state docks where she was on patrol about 2:40 in the morning. The truck sank into about 40 feet of water where she drowned, and they didn't recover her body. She'd served with the Port Authority for 7 years and had previously been a police chief of Silverville Police Department. So a very sad loss. And again, as our hearts go out to her family. This next officer, many of you, if not all of you, have probably heard. She made national news, and I'm going to apologize right now because I'm sure I will not say her name correctly, but it's Police Officer Ariana Preston. She's with Chicago Police Department. Her end of watch was Saturday, May 6th. Officer Preston was shot and killed during an attempted robbery about 1:40 a.m. She had just finished her shift and was returning home when an armed subject confronted her, attempting to rob her. She was able to draw her weapon and exchange shots with multiple subjects before she was mortally wounded. The subjects then stole her service weapon and fled the scene. An officer who was actually nearby discovered Officer Preston on the ground and rendered aid and transported her to the hospital in his patrol car. 5 subjects, including 1 juvenile, were arrested the following day. 4 of them were charged with first-degree murder, armed robbery, arson, burglary, possession of a stolen vehicle. Officer Preston served with Chicago PD only for 2.5 years, and she's survived by her mother, father, and she actually has a twin sibling. The story to this is that I am hearing that she was actually targeted right next to her parents' residence, her home. And I guess there had been a string of robberies, and it's unfortunate, to lose any officer, but it stings that much more when they're so young. It's heartbreaking. Next officer that we're going to talk about is Jacob Bowe. He was a detective with the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office out of Tennessee. His end of watch was Sunday, May 7th. He was killed in a vehicle crash on Armstrong Valley Road. He was a United States Marine Corps veteran and served with the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office for 6 years. He was part of the narcotics division. So again, as JC has said 100 times, here we have another veteran that served this country nobly, and then went from serving this country in the military to serving this country in law enforcement, and to lose his life in the line of duty is tragic. Our next officer that we're going to speak about is Bobby Robert Schisler. He's with the Deptford Township Police Department in New Jersey. His end of watch was Sunday, May 7th. He succumbed to complications of a gunshot wound that he had sustained on March 10th of this year while struggling with a subject following a foot pursuit. He had conducted a stop on the man, and the man fled on foot during the encounter, and Officer Schisler chased him down, where a struggle ensued between the two. The man produced a handgun and shot Officer Schisler in the leg. Despite being wounded, Officer Schisler returned fire and actually killed the subject. Officer Schisler was taken to the University of Pennsylvania Hospital, where he underwent multiple surgeries. He succumbed to complications of the gunshot wound on May 7th without having ever been released from the hospital. He survived he served with the Deptford Township Police Department for 4 years. His father and brother are also law enforcement officers. So it's a, pardon me, it's a family that has served and continues to serve, to serve and protect our communities. The last officer that we're going to speak of, is Katie Lysing. She was from St. Croix County Sheriff's Department out of Wisconsin. Her end of watch was Saturday, May 6th of this year. Deputy Lysing, Katie, was shot and killed while investigating a single vehicle crash involving a drunk driver near the intersection of Route 128 and County Road. She'd been speaking with the driver for approximately 8 minutes and requested that he consent to a field sobriety test. The man suddenly produced a handgun and opened fire on Deputy Lysing. Despite being mortally wounded, she returned fire but did not strike the subject. Pardon me. The man ran into a nearby woods where he committed suicide approximately an hour later after other deputies spotted him. Deputy Lysing had served with the St. Croix County Sheriff's Office for a year. And she had previously served with the Pennington County Sheriff's Office in South Dakota for 2 years. Pardon me, I apologize. So we have another officer that has served with multiple departments and served with honor, and lost her life over potentially a drunk driving incident that injured nobody, and it's just an absolute shame. So please take a moment and thoughts and prayers to the family, the departments that lost these officers in the line of duty. I would pray that their families find a way to navigate their life with this loss. So let's talk about our raffle. As you all know, we have a 2020 Harley-Davidson Pan America that we're raffling off. It's $25 a ticket, and all the proceeds go to help continue our mission of honoring men and women lost in the line of duty, law enforcement. This is an actual photograph of the Pan America that we're raffling off. So you can go to our website, or you can email us at info@eowride.org and request tickets, and we'll get them to you. We have to be very careful about how we do raffles, just because there's a lot of regulations. And so on a brighter note, I'd like to thank some of our sponsors really quick for everything they do. Let's start out with Lone Wolf Harley-Davidson. They have been a sponsor for us, since the beginning. They have donated the motorcycle every year that we give away to departments. And we've done that. We've donated 3 motorcycles to departments since our inception, since we started. So, we couldn't do it without Lone Wolf Harley-Davidson. Bud Clary Toyota out of Yakima, Washington. They have also been a sponsor of ours from the get-go, and we picked them up as a sponsor again this year. They have been nothing but amazing in helping us out. So, if you're looking for a vehicle, don't hesitate to go to Bud Clary if you're in the Yakima area and ask about a vehicle. As you know, Yokes Fresh Market in the West Coast, Washington area. They're one of our sponsors as well. They've been amazing. And of course, our biggest sponsor, Phoenix Protective Corporation, Sheila Leslie and her group have been, I don't even know if the word instrumental in our continuing mission. Phoenix Protective Corp has been our biggest sponsor, and without them, Beyond the Call wouldn't be doing what it's doing today. If you're looking for a good security company for your security needs in Washington, Idaho, Montana, Oregon, Alaska, reach out to Phoenix Protective Corp. And if you're looking for work with a good security company, reach out to them. They're always hiring. Phoenix provides canine services, executive protection, loss prevention, uniform security. They have several state and federal contracts. So they're a very reliable company. Pardon me. Advanced Digital Imaging, they have been amazing. They do all the wraps for our rolling memorials. They've done them every year, and I don't know how they do such an amazing job. They improve it every year. Our rolling memorials look better and better every year, but they get it done so quickly for us. They've been a pillar for us, and we're grateful. Selkirk Construction is where we did our raffle for our car last year, where I want to say that we're going to do the raffle there this year. I don't know that that is solidified yet, but they've been a great sponsor of ours, and we would have a hard time without them. So I appreciate you all taking time to be with us tonight. Our guest tonight is Jodi Carnes, and I hope I'm saying Jodi's name right. She is the spouse of criminal investigator Stephen Carnes, and he worked for the Tom Green County District Attorney's Office out of Texas, and his end of watch was Saturday, November 13th of 2022. I'm going to read a small little bio that Jodi sent, and then we'll bring her on, and we'll let her tell us about Stephen. Jodi and Stephen met on Halloween in 1987. Stephen was only 18 and had just recently graduated from high school, and Jodi was still attending high school. But it didn't take long for them to realize, or pardon me, for Jodi to realize that Stephen was the one. They were both very determined and had their career choices already decided. Jodi wanted to be a nurse, and Stephen never wanted to be anything other than a police officer. Jodi and Stephen dated for several years. She went on to nursing school, and Stephen went on to Permian Basin Law Enforcement Academy in Midland, Texas. Immediately after the academy, Stephen was accepted as a police officer for the Bastrop Police Department, which meant that Jodi and Stephen could finally get married. Stephen did excellent during his 8 years in Bastrop, going from officer to FTO, which is field training officer, to patrol sergeant, and even receiving Officer of the Year award. 5 years into their marriage, they were blessed with a child, their only child, Bradley. Soon after Bradley was born, Stephen took a new career path and went to work as an agent for the Texas Alcohol Beverage Commission. He again excelled at his career, going from agent to sergeant and again winning Officer of the Year, only this time it was a statewide award that he won. He did 18 years with the Texas Alcohol Beverage Commission. He retired from the agency and began what was his last job in law enforcement as a criminal investigator with the Tom Green County District Attorney's Office. Jodi says, I have personally lived a charmed life up until November 13th, 2022. Stephen always put me first, and he still treated me like a princess, even after 34 years together. He was definitely one of God's good ones. We had a once-in-a-lifetime kind of love. So I'm going to bring Jodi on. Hi, Jodi.
Hello.
Thank you for taking the time to be with us tonight. I cannot tell you how much we appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you for letting me.
Well, thank you for sharing Stephen with us. I understand that as you and I talked before or earlier tonight. It's only been 6 months since your
Yes.
loss, and
Yep.
I'm
Yeah,
sure.
I sent him to work 6 months ago today, and he did not come home.
Well, we honor his sacrifice. I know that probably does not help heal any wounds or make anything better. Um, but our mission here is to make sure that Stephen's name is forever said and never forgotten, and that he is honored appropriately for his sacrifice. And that's what we want to do. So, you also had blessed us with some photos of
Yes.
your life with Stephen. And I would like to play that for everybody right now. It's just about 30, 45 seconds long, a little montage of Stephen's life and help us all get to know Stephen a little better. So let's take a look. Jodi, those are some great pictures.
Well, like I
Um,
said, I had a pretty charmed life.
if you're up to it, why don't you tell us about Stephen and your life with him, and tell us about some of those pictures.
Well, we were kids of the 80s for sure. Um, we met in the fall of 87 as teenagers, and I'm not sure we ever grew out of the 80s, honestly. Um, One of our favorite pastimes was going to 80s rock concerts all over. I think I said in my bio that we went in Texas, but we really went everywhere. We went to Las Vegas, to Oklahoma, Louisiana, everywhere we could get to see an 80s rock concert together. That was just a favorite pastime of ours. Stephen was a self taught guitar player, and he was really good. He often played 80s rock. And every now and then I got him to try something different, but he was really good. He never knew how good he was, but it was awesome to have that
So
right here in the house.
pictures of the guitars, were those all his?
Yes, and that's just some of them.
Oh goodness!
Those are just the ones I would let him display.
Wow.
He had plenty more. Yeah, he was amazing. That was his one of his just he taught himself to do it one day um, when he decided he needed a hobby. So
Well, he looked
anyway,
like a very happy man,
he
and
was.
I will tell you that he looked like a very proud dad.
He was the picture where he's holding our son Bradley um, in the hospital. There is literally the only time I ever saw Stephen Carnes scared in my entire life. When I handed him that baby in the hospital was the only time I've ever seen that man scared, and he was scared. um, but it was a beautiful thing to see, and he was a fantastic father.
I see that it looks like that you guys maybe went to Disneyland at some point or Disney World.
We went to Orlando and we went to that area and we did some of those things in that area. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and now later in the video there were some photographs of Stephen, and I have to assume is that Bradley with him with the ball
Yes,
cap and the
yes,
spitting image of his dad. Looks
yes,
just like him.
an exact copy.
How is Bradley doing with the loss of his father?
Um, well, he's a 21-year-old man trying to find his way in the world and trying to take care of his mama. So I don't think that he lets himself have much time to think about it, because he's taking care of me and trying to find a career. He just graduated college 1 month after his daddy died. Um, and so he's still trying to find his way and to take care of me, thank God. Um, and so I don't think that he lets himself dwell on it too much. He's strong, just like his daddy, and I think that the fact that we're home together has helped both of us.
Well, I'm glad that he is there for you. We I tentatively speak for the group of us. Are I'm sorry to hear that that he lost his father and you lost your husband. It's hard enough going through it's hard enough being 21, male, female, or
Exactly.
otherwise, and
Yes,
to go through being 21, losing probably what I could tell from talking to you in the pictures, your dad slash best friend,
absolutely.
and then trying to make sure mama, who was the other half of dad,
Devastated.
yeah, the other half of dad, and devastated trying
Yes.
to navigate all of this.
And he has been remarkable.
Well, as you and I talked earlier, watching tonight, there'll be other survivors on. We have several of them, and I would say with the utmost confidence that they would be more than happy to speak with you and or your son and help. And I keep saying the word navigate, but I can't think of a better way to put it, through what you're navigating through. I was a police officer, and I can't tell you how to deal with this because I have not experienced it. I've seen it. I've been to a funeral or two in my time and had friends, but it's not the same. But
Right.
we have survivors on here uh, that are a great resource for you and your son.
Well, thank you.
So tell us something about Stephen that he was embarrassed for people to know.
Oh, goodness. um, well, that's a good question.
Not to put you on the spot or anything.
um, he was pretty soft on a cat that he said he hated. So
I think all of us fathers
uh,
no, we don't want a dog, or no, we don't want that cat, and they end up
I
becoming their best
I'm
friend.
an animal lover, and I always say that they find me and I bring them home, and we end up having several at a time, and he always tells me not one more, not another one. And I don't like that cat. And then I find the cat in his lap, and he sends me pictures where he came home to have lunch with the dog, and he would never admit to that.
So, how has the Texas Bureau of Alcohol been in contact with you? I'm finding that the Texas community, the law enforcement wise, are pretty a tight knit group.
So he worked for TABC, the Texas Alcoholic
Right.
Beverage Commission, but he had retired from there
Right.
a couple of years ago. And so I have a friend, well, one of his friends who I have been in contact with as far as that goes. But as far as the agency goes, not really. He was actually working for the DA's office at the
Right.
time of his passing. And so they have helped me in the ways that they can with getting things coordinated and getting things done. And then the San Angelo Police Department provided me with a liaison, which really did help a lot in those, especially in those early days.
Right. Right. And we're also working with some of our survivors on partnering with recent survivors to help them kind of figure out how to get through the first month.
Yes.
The things like canceling credit cards and IDs
Absolutely.
and all of the things that your mind isn't going towards because you're in this dark area trying to find your way out of it.
Absolutely. Well, and like I said, I had lived a charmed life, and part of that life was that Stephen took care of everything. I literally didn't even know who we owed our mortgage to. because I didn't need to, because he did it and I trusted him, and
Right.
that's the way our relationship worked. And so when he died, it was a big learning curve for me. A lot to learn.
Well, Stephen sounds like an amazing human being and
He was.
a great loss. Not just to your family, but to Texas law enforcement and the law enforcement community as a whole. And I look forward to seeing his name on the memorial in Washington, D.C., uh, where he will get the honor that he deserves for dedicating his entire life, literally his entire life, to serving
Yes.
and protecting. So,
Yes. And he loved it up until the day he died. He never, ever wanted anything else.
well, I will tell you, as being from law enforcement, and credit to the spouses of law enforcement officers, because oh boy, that is a tough road to hoe.
It is.
I'm sure when he went to tough calls and came home, that was difficult. It's hard to figure out what to talk about to spouses and what not to, and so.
Yes.
Um, but we're here for you. So
In the early days, I was annoyed by the every time we sat down for a meal, the radio would go off and he'd be called out. And then I got annoyed as he became a sergeant because he got called about, can we stay late and do overtime all the time?
yep.
And then it was, just what, you get annoyed at those things because when he's with you, you want him to be with you. But that's not the way it works for law enforcement.
No.
And it's just something that you have to learn as a wife,
Right.
that he's not just yours anymore.
Well, being a police officer, being in law enforcement, is a lifestyle. It's not a job. Because
Absolutely.
you don't shut it off. When you go home at night, you're still that law enforcement, and like you said, you're sharing him with the community that
Yes.
he works in and in his department, and so it takes a special spouse to be able to understand that and still have a successful and happy marriage. So
Yes. Well, he was easy to love, so
well, you make him sound like an amazing man, which I'm sure he was.
he was. He was indeed. I found out so many wonderful things even after he passed away that I didn't know about him. I mean, my sister spoke at his funeral about how much of a best friend he was to her. And I knew that they loved each other, but I did not know that he was considered a best friend to her. I did not know the number of times that they spoke and that he helped her, until he passed away, because I didn't need to know that. It was something that it was their relationship, and it was
Right.
beautiful. Um, the neighbor came and said, Stephen used to leave every morning he parked out front. And when he would leave, I'd be walking my kids to school and he'd show them his lights on his truck and it made their day. I never even knew he did that because I left out the back of the house every morning. And I just never knew that he did those kind of things. I had police officers come and tell me, he would call me and offer to help me with the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Code because I had no idea what I was doing. And I mean, just those kinds of things where he was just the guy that did the right thing. He was just that guy.
Right. Well, he sounds like somebody that, personified the adage that being a police officer is an honor, not
Absolutely.
an opportunity. And
he always thought it was an honor.
So we hope that we get more men and women in the service of our law enforcement community that reflect the same values that Stephen did.
Yes.
And again, we look forward to seeing his name, and we hope that we can get to see you in person with our memorial.
Yes.
His photo is on our memorial, and he will travel with us everywhere we go, and thousands of people see him and say thank you in their own way. So
what an honor. Thank you.
So let's take some comments, and I'm going to keep you on when we do this because there might be some questions for you, possibly. I never know
Okay.
what's going to come up, but let's take a look and see what we got here. We'll start at the Amory. Good evening, Blue family. Honor every resting officer. Hero. So Emery is one of our tried and trues. he definitely is a core person for us, and means more than I can even articulate, to be quite frank with you. He has helped a lot of people while helping himself. So, Joel, good evening. I'm sorry JC isn't here, but I'm going to take the kudos for tonight. I might not be as good as JC, but I'll give it the old college try. Billy, hey Billy, thank you for joining us. So Billy does the honor guard for Delta Airlines out of Atlanta for military and law enforcement personnel, and we had the privilege of having our memorial parked in one of their hangars for everybody to see. And Billy does it on his own time and probably on his own dime to some degree, and honors the families of both military and law enforcement personnel. Just an amazing individual. So let's see here. You're a beautiful soul.
Well, that's another organization that has been so kind since Stephen's passing. I don't know if you know much about their organization, but they run a mile in honor of every hero that dies in the line of duty, and local law enforcement comes out and runs with them, and it's just a beautiful thing to see. And they did that for Stephen, and it touched my heart.
Well, it's amazing, and it's nice to see so many people and organizations holding out their hand to, help you get up off the ground, and others like you. Jennifer says, "Thank you for
Jennifer's
honoring."
one of my best friends.
Well, it's us who are honored to have you on here and to be able to say Stephen's name and to hear you talk about him. We are just facilitating that, and it really is our privilege. Emery again. Thank you, Jodi. May the constant love of caring friends soften your sadness. May cherished memories bring you moments of comfort. May lasting peace surround your hearts.
Thank you.
So now you can see why everybody loves Emery, because he is an amazing human being. Chris, two of the best people I've ever known. Do you know Chris, I'm assuming?
Chris worked with Stephen in his first job in Bastrop, Texas. Well, they were good friends and remained good friends up until Stephen's passing.
Well, thank you, Chris, for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. Gina says that you honored him well, Jodi. So
Gina is my current boss at work.
Well, I'm glad they're here for you. I'm glad they showed up tonight to see you and to hear about Stephen. And boy, they could probably tell some stories themselves, given the opportunity.
I know Jennifer could, and Chris.
Let's see. Rita, Stephen and Jodi bless me every day on so many ways. I'm assuming Rita is a close friend of yours as well.
Yes, a friend of the family. Yes.
Rita, thank you for joining us tonight. It means a lot. Brandy, Stephen Carnes was a great man. She misses his smile. So
Brandy is his family before me.
Oh. Let's see. Lainey. I'm guessing much love always to Stephen and Jodi Carnes. I'm going to guess that you know Lainey.
Lainey is my cousin.
Well, Lainey, thank you for
Lainey and
being
her
here.
husband. Lainey and I are only about 6 months apart in age, and so we've always been pretty close. And Lainey and her husband and Stephen and I had made a pact a few years ago that we were going to vacation together every year. And so last year we had a beautiful vacation to San Diego, and we were already looking forward to next year's vacation. And so that's going to look a little different now.
Well, I am awestruck at how many people are on here supporting you, and as it should be. Jamie, Stephen was my brother-in-law, my very best friend. Jodi is my sister, and she loves you both dearly. I don't know that anything else could be said about that.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
This is how every live should be. Hearing the great stories, seeing the smile, embracing you, and having your family and your friends come on. And so the days maybe that you forget the love that surrounds you, the people that love you and care about you are still here. Sometimes we get caught up in our daily lives and we forget to pick up the phone or whatever. And they're there for you. And now you have a new family, because we would be honored to have you join us. Stephen is part of a law enforcement family, and we would love to have you become part of the Beyond the Call End of Watch family as well. And not only honor Stephen, but honor all the other men and women
yes,
that have made this horrible sacrifice for the communities that they protect and serve.
Right.
So, speaking of, is there anything else that you would like to say about Stephen, or in closing?
No, I think that we've said we've said everything about him. He was a beautiful human being. He loved his family. He moved back home to take care of his sick father. Stayed here because of his mama, and like I said, he always put me first without ever a question. And he was one of a kind. I don't think you'll find another Stephen Carnes out there.
Well, I thank you for sharing him with us. Thank you for coming on the live with us tonight.
Thank you.
If I can have you stay with me till after the live is over, so I can speak with you just briefly before you go. I'm going to do some wrapping up, and then I'll get with you. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming here tonight and listening to me, and more importantly, listening to Jodi share all the great memories of Stephen, their son Bradley. Thank you for Stephen's family and friends being here and sharing him with us. I wish I could have had all of you on to tell something about Stephen, but it's very clearly that Stephen was not just blessed, but a very honorable man who worked hard for his community and served them well. He will be missed, greatly missed. It's Friday night. Happy Mother's Day, early Mother's Day. Please do not forget it's National Police Week. The 15th is National Police Memorial Day. A lot of people will be going to Washington, D.C. to honor our fallen brothers and sisters. Please take a moment this week, specifically the 15th, to remember our heroes who laid down their lives for the communities they served, for the nations they served, for the nation they served, and all that they did. And then the families and the departments, the friends that they left behind. If you're out tonight, if you're going to go out, please do not drink and drive. Please do not text and drive. It's nice out now, so more motorcycles are out. So please be aware of motorcycles around you when you're driving. If you see blue lights or red lights, it doesn't matter whether it's law enforcement or emergency services, move out of the way. If you see them on the road, give them plenty of room. We lose way too many officers in the line of duty that are conducting traffic stops or just helping out the distressed motorists. So please be cognizant of them as you're traveling on our roadways. If you see an officer in person as you're walking down the street, please take a moment, at the minimum, say thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for what you do. Shake their hands, give them a fist bump. Heck, if they'll let you, give them a hug. Don't recommend walking up and just grabbing them and hugging them, but at least tell them thank you for what they do. It means a lot to them. So Thank you for being with us tonight on the Friday Night Live. Please join us next week and stay blessed and have a good and safe week.